Hello. You are listening to Dads with Startups, a podcast about a couple of entrepreneurs who put family first.
Hey there, Kevin.
Howdy, how's it going, John? It's been a little while.
Yeah, we had a break. I've had a lot
Okay.
going on. I don't know about you. I feel like it's mostly been my fault.
There were a few times where I asked to reschedule at the last minute because something came up, so it's been on both sides.
All right.
And I know you were also off doing a bunch of conferences for a little while, and I think that died down.
Oh, yeah.
Can't remember.
It probably has been a while. Yeah, I went to a whole lot of conferences this fall. The last one was last month. But I've been to, between me and this other guy that I hired to do customer success,
Mm-hmm.
we've been to, I think the number is about 12 conferences this fall, between August and November.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So it's been a wild ride.
Oh, that's got to be a lot. And you are seeing some of the payoff.
Not yet. It takes a while. Yeah, it takes a while to see. We have one new customer in Arizona. They converted pretty quickly. Yeah, we met them at the conference.
Well, there you go.
But and then we've had a few demos. We'll see what kind of results we have. So
Nice.
I would be happy if we get one new customer for every 2 conferences that we go to. So
That's fair.
if we got 5 new customers as a result of our efforts, then 5 or 6, I'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean the Arizona one, I'm sure that paid for the conference or more, so that's cool. I assume.
Oh yeah, that's the thing is my customers are very high account value, and so this one customer probably pays for about a third of all of the conferences we attended.
Wow, awesome.
So
beautiful.
Yeah,
and that's just for 1 year.
Yep.
So that's
Yeah,
good.
that's like 1 year. Yeah, 1 year contract. Lifetime value is pretty much through the roof right now. So
Great. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you also mentioned offline that you had just came back from MicroConf. No, not startup TinySeed. I'm getting confused.
TinySeed, yeah. Yeah, so TinySeed, I've wrapped up TinySeed. The accelerator is over.
Oh, I see.
So,
that's what you're talking about. Okay, so it was a year program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so TinySeed is a 1-year long accelerator. So I started in November of last year and wrapped it up last month. I sent them a nice little write-up on what basically how the year went compared to the last. I don't know how many of my numbers specifically I want to share, but I can say that growth rate for my company, Civic Review, has been about 50 to 60% year over year.
Excellent.
When TinySeed started, the previous 12 months has only been like 35% growth.
Okay.
So I compared that previous 12 months with the 12 months while I was in TinySeed. And percent growth then was, I have the numbers here, 106% increase in annual revenue. So that's a pretty healthy number.
It went from 50 to 100%. What do you mean? Did I understand that correctly?
50 is like my average year over year.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yep.
And so it's gone to 100 now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
So it's
awesome.
been a good year. How much of that was because of TinySeed? It's hard to say. I mean, I think clearly if you could see a line chart, it would have been like growth that kind of moves up and then goes up, it doubles, so something obviously changed at that point. And I think TinySeed had something to do with it. I spent some time trying to decide what if it was TinySeed, what about TinySeed made that growth happen?
Right.
And I think if I reflect on a year ago, I was comfortable just having me, and occasionally I had some part-time help, and that was pretty much the party. um, and when I got the TinySeed money, I was emboldened to hire more people. Um, so I hired 2 people. Each of them were about 30 to 40 hours per week.
Nice.
So basically full-time individuals. And it turns out growth was so great that I was able to pay for their salaries, but I don't know if I would have made that leap to hire them if I didn't
Sure.
have TinySeed. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
if
I
I
think.
hadn't hired them, would I have
Mhm.
been able to handle the kind of growth I had? That's
Mhm.
the other question too.
Gotcha.
Kind of a
Gotcha.
paradox there.
That's cool. Cool to think about that stuff. And I'm sure there's probably a mix of both, whether, there could have been a natural organic growth anyway. That's like a baseline, but it is significant that you doubled that you doubled that growth. So I think there's certainly
Mhm.
something there. And you're talking about how it affected your decisions. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely do it again. I'm still I think the deal with TinySeed is I'm still part of the community, and I still have
Yeah.
access to some mentorship. And Rob and Anar, they're always willing to talk to me if I need to, that kind of thing.
Cool.
Um,
I mean,
so
you're still a player in their field. I mean, if you succeed and shoot to the moon, they're going to benefit. So I would assume that.
they still have equity. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they still have equity, right?
it's in
So
their best interest to help me
yeah,
out. Yeah, exactly.
think of it as, yeah, you're an alumni right now. Did you say?
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yep.
Now,
Big
are
shot
there
alumni.
and yeah, are they doing a fair amount of alumni management? Would do they have like a alumni only events, or is that something they talked about? Or at least a
No, they don't really
community?
have alumni only. Yeah, it's
Okay,
just you're kind of in there together, and there's a lot of activity in our own Slack account,
sure,
um, with
cool.
everybody kind of all mixed together. And
Yeah.
I think there are certain channels for the current batches, um,
Oh, right, cohorts.
but they're mostly things related to like the retreats and things that
Sure,
they have for those batches.
makes
So
that's cool. I mean, I think it's
yeah,
even the microconf community. There's a lot there. If even the Slack channel, if I were to go and use it more, so I'm sure there's a lot of value you can get, just questions or whatever comes up for you, just in the Slack community of the alumni or the general group and stuff like that. Well,
yeah,
congratulations,
they're
man.
thanks. They're similar groups, the MicroConf and TinySeed Slack groups. They're similar,
Gotcha.
and there's a lot of overlap there. I belong to
Yeah.
both groups, and there are a lot of TinySeed founders that are in both. Um, and there were a lot of TinySeed companies that just did amazing. I mean, I'm very happy with my year,
Yeah.
um, especially considering haven't really done any sales work. This has mostly been natural referrals, organic growth.
Sure.
I didn't think this year was going to turn out this way at all. I thought I put the brakes on sales. I was like, I'm going to double down and reinvest on future
Mm,
outcomes. And instead, I was just chasing the new deals, which is not a bad problem to have.
no,
But
that's
yeah,
great. I think it kind of leads into something that I can give it a quick update. I mean, one thing that I realized about 2 months ago was that I was trying to do, and this may have come about actually so we did microconf remote, I think it is, a few months ago.
mhm.
My wife and I, which is nice. So just sitting home and watching this stuff. And I think it was Rob's initial keynote. He had a really good graph, maybe, or wasn't it? Maybe it wasn't even a graph. I can't remember if it was a slide or not. But the way I remember it was, I think it was a slide. You're kind of like a pendulum swinging back and forth between marketing, acquiring new customers effectively, and product, making the product desirable for customers to actually care about. And that's the difficulty of the solo founder is just as you're focused on the
You
one
have to
side, you have to
swing one way or
swing
the other.
back.
Yeah.
And it's very jarring and it's very difficult to do, especially if your personality is one or the other. And I mean, there's numerous founders out there that are marketing focused, and there's a lot of us in the microconf community that are development focused and product focused. And I realized maybe because I had the luxury of having some developers actually doing the product, I was trying to do both back and forth, and typically it's like I wasn't making progress in either track. And so I convinced my wife, who's my partner in all of the businesses that we've started, to join us, join the company and be the marketing person, but she has limited time too. And as we began talking, and she was like, okay, well, where's the product? Give me some updates. What's going on with it? It was very clear that like I've neglected the product because I've been trying to do both. And I'm out there, one day I'm trying to do, some new scheme with marketing, and, okay, I'll have my VA look into this or that. But those things take so much energy and resources that the product was suffering. And so one nice thing is that about a month and a half ago, we both decided to put a pause on marketing and just focus on the product, because that's what's really screaming at us right now is customers checking it out and saying, where are these features? And then leaving. And so I feel good about it. And I feel like kind of that is reinforced by what you just said about, you're not even really focused on the market, and yet you're having customers bang on your door because they're getting referrals from other people. And that means that there's something working there that they like, that they're willing to tell other people about. And that is something that I think needs to happen in our case too. And then the only way that's going to possibly happen is if we actually spend some time, take a pause from marketing, and focus um, on the product more. And we have enough flow from our past marketing efforts that we can still get, people coming in and giving us feedback and all that stuff. So that's kind of a revelation for me recently, is just relax about the marketing, let it go, and you can do that stuff down the road,
Yeah. Do you and your wife, your business partner, have clearly defined roles over who owns what
Usually,
in the
yes.
business?
But that was becoming an issue because she was taking over the marketing, but not really, her bandwidth was not very high. And so I would jump into her role and start doing something. Like one example was like the website was in a pretty bad condition. I had a friend look at it. He does websites for clients, and he does like a lot of Shopify sites. So he's quite good at that. I mean, he could just look at a website and immediately tell all the problems. And so I gave
Yeah.
him the website one day, not even really for any, just because he asked, and he suddenly is like throwing me feedback. He found lorem ipsum in the FAQs that we had
Oh.
left in there from the beginning. It was just like, oh my gosh. He found a bunch of problems like that, just sloppiness. Our about page was a disaster. It was, and we had different people working on it at different times. So it was kind of like Frankenstein. So that was something that
Yeah.
I was like, okay, before I get back to the product, I'm going to fix this darn thing. And I went in and I cleaned up the whole site, made it, now I feel good about it. Now I can more comfortably go back to the product. But yeah, I was sort of taking her job sometimes and mine, and it's a great way to get kind of nowhere fast, is not staying in your lane. So we're working on that, and I think it's getting a little better. The one thing she's been doing great though is we started doing podcast outreach about 6 months ago, having a VA find podcast opportunities, email folks and stuff like that. And I think Alyssa, so I decided, okay, Alyssa's a better face than me on this, because, how many, typical male founders on a podcast do you really want to hear from? So it was interesting because once we switched the pitch to her instead of me, she started to get a lot more invites onto podcasts because, having a female SaaS founder is a little more interesting. And she's been doing well in that. And so she's probably done about 20, 23, 25 podcasts so far. And they are, some of them are obviously more successful or more helpful to others, but we're definitely seeing a jump in traffic and interest just because of those. So that's been cool. So that's the one thing she's been kind of focusing on these days is that side of things. But yeah, I'm
Nice.
excited about getting back to the product. And in terms of our kind of growth, we launched in February, and it's sort of like I'm looking at our numbers right now in Stripe, and like we're hitting about 30% month-to-month growth, which is good, which is exciting. But the thing is that's like, in the hundreds of dollars. So the data is not there yet. Right? It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
sometimes some months we've had like 50% growth, 60% growth. It's like, oh my gosh, but it's only like going from, a couple hundred to this, so we're still sub 1,000 in terms of MRR, and we have a long way to go, but I'm at least, enthusiastic. I'm still a believer. And one thing that we do have a huge amount of churn with is the fact that people will log in, see that we don't have the quiz feature, and then just bounce. And so that, at least, I'm excited about the quiz feature coming on board, which we're going to release in beta by the end of the year. So that'll be coming soon. And I'm hoping that makes a difference in terms of keeping people as subscribers.
Nice. I don't know what I'm going to ask. Like, what's the plan next year? I mean, you got this feature out there in beta. How soon can you release it and what does that mean in beta when you have so few customers?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think what we're going to do is basically put up we're going to put it into the app for everyone and just have a little modal that says, use it at your own risk. This isn't beta.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So everyone will have access to it, but just know that, your data mostly will be okay, but you never know. And then once that's out, the goal is just to focus on integrations. I feel like that's the one thing that we have not gotten out the door fast enough and could make hopefully the biggest difference is multiple channels of new customers coming in from various app stores. We've been working on this Duda integration forever, and it's just been like, it's like we're writing letters back and forth across the Atlantic. It's like, we found we're testing the app. There's a bug. We don't know why. I respond, and then it's another week, and then it's a week from them and a week back, so it's like a week every time we communicate, and this has been dragging on. And so I'm just like, cannot wait to finish this thing. But once we get some of these things online, my hope is that we're actually going to be turning on new channels of customers, and that's the biggest priority for us, is to get integrations into other platforms up and running. So
cool. I was going to say, whenever I release a feature in Civic Review, if it's like a big one that I'm a little nervous, maybe it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
Like, who knows what kind of bugs we're going to find. I usually just don't announce it. So I'll release it and then
okay.
just kind of
That's
like,
good.
there it is. Sometimes I'll talk to some customers one-on-one. Hey, can you try that? You were asking for this specifically. Try it out. And
Nice.
then maybe after a few months, if I remember to, I'll announce it. But half the time I forget to announce that feature once it's been tested.
Do you have a newsletter or anything that you send out at all?
We don't have anything regular. And here's the truth about my company. I am the only developer.
Yeah.
And I have done, probably in 2022, I would say I've probably done about maybe 80 hours of development work total.
Wow.
The whole year.
2 weeks.
That's
Okay.
I'm not proud of that number. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people are impressed by it. The app is, I mean, the product is functioning. It's built.
Yes.
There's a lot that I could do to improve it. But it's functioning enough to acquire new customers and get paying customers, So
would you say most of your
that
time
hasn't
has
been the
been
focus.
on acquisition then?
Yeah.
Talking
And
to customers.
customer onboarding. That's a good question. I haven't really fully reflected on my year. Let me think about it a minute. I think I could break up my year into 3 phases. So phase 1 would be the first 1/3 of the year was spent hiring.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of work because I started out the year solo. I had nobody else working with me. I hired 2 people in, what was it, in March, and so just that
Yeah.
process consumed all of my time, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and then the second trimester, we'll say,
Hmm.
was pretty heavy on the sales and onboarding, you know, not just onboarding the employees, but new customers mostly. Onboarding new
Yeah.
customers. We have a lot of our customers are government contracts, and so a lot of them will start like July 1st, and so it's kind of
Mm,
summertime was a lot of that. And then of course conferences, as I've mentioned before, a lot of travel, and the conferences have taken a lot of
gotcha.
time. So that was kind of the 3 main big things. I think, looking forward next year, I'll have to come back to this. I think next time we can talk
Yeah.
on more detail, but I know that I'll be hiring a little bit more next year. I've yet to nail down exactly what those positions are gonna
Okay.
be, though. So,
What do you think
it's at
would
least that.
make the biggest, if you had to hire, would you consider anytime soon a developer hire? Why or why not? I'm curious.
Keep telling myself I can go longer without a developer if I can just free up some of my own time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like I'm pretty efficient with my time as a developer, but, um and it is the highest paying
Yeah,
task that I could hire out for, and so I would rather just do that myself and hire out the lower paying tasks.
sure.
But this year hasn't really been that way, right? So,
Right.
um, I've been toying in my head lately with the idea of hiring another developer.
Oh, okay.
If I'll do it next year, we'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
You guys, you'll have to stay tuned to find out, right?
Do you think you could
But
really, I mean, I guess the question would be if you hired another developer, would that be a game changer for the app? Let's say you could magically hire yourself, duplicate yourself, and have 40 hours a week of John's time to be working on the app. Would that make a difference in the business? Do you think that could lead to growth? Or do you think it would just be same rate of growth? I mean, do you think people would tell each other
yeah,
more about the app? I'm just curious what you think. Because it doesn't sound like your time developing has cost you time to spend with customers and growing the app marketing wise.
yeah. There's the cost versus benefit matrix of hiring these different roles, right? A developer would Hiring a developer would allow me to get a lot of the things done in product that I want to get done.
Yeah.
Um, Now, getting those things done, what would that create? Would I get new sales because of it, or would I just create even more loyalty with my customers?
Mm,
And
yeah.
and the other question is, do I even need more loyalty with my customers? Because
Right.
so far, my churn has been, frankly, nothing.
Wow.
So is that really a problem? Probably
Yeah.
not. Um, Rob Walling, one day he was talking to me, and he said, if people are churning or they're not converting because you're missing features, then you need developers,
Yes.
or you need to do more development or whatever. Like that should be the focus. He was like, if that's not the case, then there's sales, and if you have so many leads coming in that you can't close these deals, then you need more
Right.
salespeople to close those deals. That's not really the case right now. And so the other factor there is marketing, which is acquiring inbound leads. And
Right.
um, that's, I think, investing in marketing. Sales is a tricky one because sales versus marketing, you get faster payoff with sales. You just get on the phone, start
Mhm.
calling people, and you
Sure.
get people to convert right away. Marketing, however, is a little bit like, I mean, it's the same as like SEO, right?
Yeah.
You start investing now. Over time, you're going to get some results, and hopefully, in 2 or 3 years, when I hire some salespeople, they're only handling inbound leads. You know,
Right.
right now, if I hired size salespeople, they would have to just be hitting the phones, and that would be okay. But that's what me and other people who've worked for me have done lately, and I'm a little sick of it.
Well, you
So
also have so much opportunity to me. I mean, it's like a blue ocean, where if you were, I think I don't know why I think of this parable of Jesus where he puts the net on the other, tells them to put the net on the other side of the boat. All these fish come up. Sorry to get religious on the podcast, but to me, it's sort of like you would have so much in terms of SEO. You're not exactly in an industry where you're battling it out for, getting insurance leads or something, and there's a gazillion other SEO people that are better than you at it, and you're just a new entrant. Like you have a
yeah,
particularly niche, very niche product, which means that your SEO is going to be 10, 100 times easier than for most
it could
SaaSes
be.
even.
Yeah, that's my theory. I haven't really tested it, but
Well, you
um,
have, in a way, if you've gotten customers, if I remember correctly, when you've gotten customers from literally just your website, it sort of says a lot there, because I don't think that, I think you mentioned that you've had a few sales calls from folks
yeah,
just finding you organically without you even trying. So
yeah,
that's says something there.
it does. Um, so I would like that to be my focus next year is marketing.
Hmm.
Um, so I won't see quick results from that. Not. I
Yeah,
mean, I could hire salespeople, see faster results, but I feel like marketing is more
nice.
exponential, right?
Well,
So
the fact that you've put in 80 hours of development this year and you've had the growth that you've had says kind of what mirrors what Rob mentioned to you, which sounds like you have a fairly
yeah,
mature
it's true.
product.
Hmm.
I just watched and I'll try to put it in the show notes if I can remember. I rarely do, but I just watched Laura Roeder had a talk from a few years back that they just released on the MicroConf YouTube channel, maybe a month or two back. And both my wife and I listened to it. And it was great. I mean, what's so cool about it was kind of turning things on its head. She was talking about, like, they were doing, 3 or 4 million a year, maybe more. They were completely transparent about their revenue. And this is for a product called Get Edgar, I think, something like that, or Meet Edgar, social media scheduling software. And suddenly she realizes, um, I don't know, she may not have given the exact number, but it sounds like 70 or 80% of her revenue was going right back into the business, and they had plateaued in terms of growth. And so they tried this, they tried that, and nothing was really moving the needle in terms of more growth. So it just became a question of, like, well, why are we paying developers this much? And I remember there was something she said that really struck me, because she's not a developer herself, but her husband is. And she said something like, we looked at how much we had spent on retooling our infrastructure, and it sounds like they had done numerous big, like, okay, we need to move from, I don't know, Ruby this version to Ruby that version, and let's spend whatever XYZ on this number of months to throw all these developers at it, and then, improve the infrastructure, improve the back end where your customers can't even see. And they were spending all this money to do so, and just effectively it wasn't making any difference in their revenue, and it was just eating up their overhead. And so she basically went and laid off, like, I don't know, 75% of the company, and suddenly she's making all this money. And it was more like, okay, we've decided this company is not on growth mode anymore. Maybe it's hit a peak, maybe it's not, but let's start another company and let's put this on maintenance mode. And now let's just hire. She said she hired, like, she went from like 4 developers to 1 developer, and nobody complained. And so it does kind of bring into
Yeah, yeah,
question whether, a lot of times we have a wish list of features and fixes and all this stuff, but that's just our human nature is to want to kind of fix those and get those done. But is it really moving the needle? Is it really going to make a difference in terms of profits?
Yeah, especially as a technical founder, it's hard to not want to. My ideal world, I would just love to sit and improve the product. Like,
Nice.
I don't particularly enjoy doing a lot of the other stuff. Well, that's not true. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy helping them, but nothing gives me more satisfaction than improving the product, you know? So even though it's been a great year, I'm just kind of like, I look back and I, I almost measure my success based on the product
Mm,
and its
nice.
feature set rather than the revenue value, which um, maybe is the not quite the right attitude for a CEO, right? So who knows? But for now, I think everything is going okay. Um, but how about you guys? Like, what do you do for your your partner is doing um, YouTube, right? Or webinars or whatever,
Yeah, podcast for the
um,
most part. Yeah.
podcasts,
Mhm.
and any other marketing? Are you guys producing content, writing, or
So we are. We actually hired a woman off of Fiverr about a year, maybe 7 months ago. I hired her to do an email series for us, just like when you sign up to our newsletter, you get an email series. And she was branded herself as like specialist in SaaS. And I really was impressed by it. I was like, I didn't expect it to be very good. It was only like $100. And I'm reading this, and I'm like, this is impressively good. She actually researched our company. So we actually brought her in to do some writing of our blog. And so that's been the other project that my wife is working on is optimizing that kind of, I call it the machine of like pumping out
yeah?
articles. And so
Hmm.
we ask her to write about 2 articles per month. She does keyword research um, in our area, and she proposes ideas, and then she's writing great articles and pumping them out, and then we put them in our newsletter stream. So those are going out. So our newsletter stays pretty active once a week, and that matches what's in our blog. So that's been good, and we've seen I don't know, probably 15 to 20% per month growth in our traffic, I think. And I think I would attribute that to continuing to put out stuff, because I do think that
Yeah,
Google can punish you. And this is what I've noticed over the years is Google will punish you if they don't see fresh content. They
if it
won't
goes
punish you
stale.
completely, but they will assume that if it's not being updated, it's probably not relevant as much, compared to other sites.
Yeah,
So that's been something that I think is good. So I mean, we probably doubled our traffic since maybe summer, and that's also I've seen an uptick in trials and new free trials. So that's been cool. Um, but I think that's all we'll do right now. I think I'm just going to focus on the product, and until we're at the point where we feel like, okay, this is now a mature product, we have something to market, And right now I just
yeah.
don't know we're putting the
No,
cart
that's
before the
true. I
horse.
mean, it's never too early to invest in that marketing. It's something that I wish I had done, but
Mhm.
it shouldn't be at the expense of the product if you don't have
Yeah,
that product out there yet, right?
totally.
So,
And that's something that's new for me, because I think I was very much about doing it before. I'd be like, let's talk about a feature that we don't have and just put it coming soon. And, I'm not sure how
mhm,
helpful that was. It was, you know, it's probably the wrong attitude. It's probably stick to the basics, focus on the product. Of course, you can get
right.
too wrapped up in the product, and there's plenty of good content out there. I think MicroConf addresses that a lot, and a lot of its conferences. And so,
Hmm.
but yeah, it should be interesting. It'd be cool to hear how this next year goes for you with a bit of a focus on the marketing side versus the sales, and how that works out.
Yeah, that is what I intended to do last year. So, what'll be really interesting to see is if I actually execute on that plan.
Yeah. Which I guess you need to figure
So,
out what the plan is, right? So you're looking at SEO.
yeah.
Are you looking at anything else right now?
In terms of marketing,
Mm-hmm.
right now it's mostly SEO. I think we would probably do some paid acquisition as well.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
We have one customer that came through that channel on an ad that I set up a long time ago. It was poorly optimized and hardly got any hits, wasn't even costing us for impressions,
Nice.
and but then we got this new customer because of it. So there is something there, I think. I don't exactly know. That's probably something we'll hire out and have somebody
Yeah.
definitely help with that, because it's a whole other world that I don't have time to research and figure out how to navigate. So
Oh, and Google
yeah,
Ads is just, to me, the last time I checked, it was so complicated to use. As a developer, you think, well, I can figure this out. Like nothing makes sense. It's like, why this? There's no logic to this interface, and I've wasted so much time on there.
yeah.
So I think it's smart to find someone who knows what they're doing.
I
But I
know
would
developers
see,
think they can figure it out, and
yeah,
I think I ran into roadblocks when I was trying to do conversion tracking, because there's like a billion ways to skin that cat
yep,
apparently, and I was like, can I just embed this pixel and it
and
can
just
just
work.
know?
I
Yeah,
know.
that's what I
No, it
want.
can't. It's so stupid.
But
Yeah, I was thinking that, and we maybe have talked about this before, but again, seems like SEO would be really easy. But I guess what I'd say is, like, for my guess with your company is that SEO would be very much an 80-20 thing. You put a little 20% of your effort into it, you're going to get a good 80% of value out of it, or whatever that is. And then I would think that like paid search ads would also be pretty good for you. Again, just because you're in such a
yeah,
unique niche market.
yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. I think the biggest stumbling block I've had this year is we've had a good handful of new customers, and the customer onboarding process is quite intense right now.
Gotcha.
And that hasn't really seemed like an issue when I was getting like 4 customers per year, which is
Right.
kind of what I was doing as a solopreneur previous to this year. That was kind of my average, and then
Yeah.
this year that number has gone way higher.
Mm.
And it's been a huge time suck for me. I've even with these 2 customer success reps that I have and having them help out quite a bit, hiring a 3rd customer success rep is starting to just feel like, oh, you're just throwing money at a problem, but you're not solving
Gotcha.
it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because my organization should not be made up of one person who does sales, product, marketing, all the above, and then 3 customer success reps. It should
Right.
not.
Right.
It's a
Right.
little
Right.
lopsided, and something's wrong with my business model, or just with the process there. So I think before I would like to fix that problem before I see results from marketing. However, I don't want to wait until that problem's fixed before I start investing in marketing, because, like you said,
Mm.
um, that's a machine. You just got to start
Yeah.
building it right now. So
That's
yeah,
yeah, it's one of those things where you have to decide what's higher priority. And is that something
yeah.
that development would fix?
I think some development would fix a little bit of that, but
Yeah.
I think there's also, there's some other things that we can do in terms of onboarding. So I don't think there's one big magic
Yeah.
bullet, but
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of little optimizations
SOPs
we
and
can
stuff
do.
like that. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good. That sounds like
So
a good wrap up for this year. And maybe next time we can talk about, after we think about what our goals for the year will be, and make them a little more solidified.
yeah, we should do a goals. We should talk goals next time.
Yeah.
So
Sounds good. All
all
right.
right. Peace out,
Good to
Kevin.
see you. We'll talk. Have a great holiday.
You too.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. You can learn more by visiting dadswithstartups.com. Please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/Dads with Startups. Until next time, bye.